Hello, everyone. I am Brandy Chambers. I am on the board of directors for the Dallas Women Lawyers Association, and I am here to have a conversation with Kara Altenbaumer Price. Hi, Kara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Crazy as always. And as you hear, my cat wants in, so we may have more company in a minute. So yay on that. I am so glad to have you today. You're one of, for everyone, little inside knowledge here. You're one of my very, very good and close friends and have been for years. So I'm really excited to kind of get to have this little chat with you and introduce you to the Dallas Women Lawyers Association membership and everybody else who wants to view this, to talk about kind of your interesting career that you've had and some big curveballs that have been given to you and how you have really learned how to take those curveballs and knock them out of the park. So I want to start off. I was going through today because I know your story, but I don't know it chronologically. And I see, I went back to your LinkedIn profile and saw that you graduated from UT in 98. And then 2 years later, you started Texas Tech Law. So what did you do between those 2 years?
I was a newspaper reporter. So I wrote stories about government, but specifically I actually moved out to Lubbock right after college because it was the best job offer. And I covered the university before I ended up attending it.
So what made you decide, hey, forget about being a journalist, let's go to law school?
I fell in love with the boy. That was a lot of it, honestly. When I went to college, I thought I would eventually become this specialty columnist. And so I had law school in the back of my head or public policy school, something like that. I went out to Lubbock, and the way that journalism tends to work is, at least then, it's a completely different profession than it was in the 90s, but it was a stepping stone career. So I went out to Lubbock, and the idea was I would spend 2 years there. Of course, while I was there, I fell in love with my now husband. And I said, I think this boy's the real one. What can I do to advance my career in Lubbock? And I went and scheduled a meeting with the dean of the law school. And he said, asked me about my undergraduate GPA. And he said, if you can get this on the LSAT, you'll qualify for a full ride here. And I went and bought an LSAT prep book. I paid a late fee, took the LSAT, went to law school because it was the best way to advance my career, yet stay in Lubbock.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was not really a linear path like I meant.
So you didn't grow up watching Perry Mason and was like, that's going to be me one day.
No, in fact, my scholarship essay for law school actually said, I'm not your typical law student. I don't plan to practice. And then somewhere along the way in law school, I decided, no, I really like this. I want to practice this. And then eventually I practiced it for a while and took a different path again.
Excellent. Excellent. So after law school, where did you go? What happened?
I clerked for the Texas Supreme Court for a year. And then I came to Dallas and worked at Hughes and Luce. And then many of you don't know what that is, but it is the predecessor to K&L Gates. And when it became clear it was going to become K&L Gates, I decided to stick with still a smaller, more Texas-based firm, and went over to Andrews Kurth, which neither one of those were small firms, but they were a lot smaller than K&L Gates, and ended up at Andrews Kurth for a few years.
What were you practicing?
Securities litigation.
Okay, so that's a bit different than journalism.
It is a bit journalism, but in many ways, it's not that different, because in my securities litigation practice, a lot of it was about SEC investigations, Department of Justice investigations. So you spend a lot of time interviewing people, prepping people for interviews, getting people to talk about things that they don't want to talk about, and making them feel comfortable. And essentially, that's what a journalist does. So in many ways, the exact same skill set I used in newspaper reporting was still the skill set I was using in litigation. Because let's be honest, securities litigation isn't actual trial law. I mean, I think there's like one case tried every other year or so. So it's not like you're in the courtroom much. You may argue motions and things, but you're not really trying cases that much. So it's not that different than my journalism career was.
That's very interesting. So I know that at some point, and I want to say from my deal in 2010, you really diverged from that career path and entered the insurance industry. Tell me about that transition and what brought that What brought
Well, that
along?
transition takes a little bit of the backstory with my kids to understand exactly what played into that. So in 2006, I gave birth to my first child. He was born at when I was only 5 months pregnant. So 23 weeks pregnant, weighed 1 pound. He had a number of issues. He still has a number of issues. So in his first few years of life, we didn't really know the extent of what was happening in terms of he didn't speak until he was 3. He didn't walk until he was 2. We didn't know the damage that had been done from being born that early. So once we figured that out and determined that, yes, we could go ahead and have another child, I looked at his needs and just trying to balance the billable hour at Big Law and all of that, and probably more information than people normally know about me, but I think it's important for women to talk about this. I had a pretty late miscarriage while I was still practicing when we were trying to have that second child. And I kind of looked at my first kid's special needs and my desire to have a second kid and realized that the billable hour practice in Big Law was probably not conducive to that. So I decided to take a 2-year detour 11 years ago. That was the plan, was to go for 2 years and be a consultant at an insurance broker and basically take my securities litigation knowledge and use that in the consulting space, because a securities litigator is paid by D&O insurance policies. That's how the fees get paid. And so I had a very good feel for what the risk was, what people were trying to insure, how things fell apart in the paying of bills. So I went over to consult and ended up just really liking it. I really liked the proactive nature. I liked having a much more manageable life. I traveled from a business perspective, but you didn't have that. It has to be done right now, meet this deadline at 8 a.m. I could have a lot more control over my own life, frankly. And I ended up discovering through doing it that I really liked that sort of client direct involvement. Nobody's concerned about picking up the phone because they're not paying you by the hour. It's a commission-based business. It's about winning and losing business. It's not about billing hours here and there. So just being in the combination of business and law was really fun. And I've been doing that now for 11 years.
Excellent. So, and also you had another big event in 2012 when Elliot came along.
Right. So I ultimately was able to have that second baby. It was a long path to get there. But he himself also came at 28 weeks. So he was a 3-pound baby. So I always joke that I'm not very good at growing them, but I think I do an okay job raising them.
I would totally agree with that. So, and as a result, this is what I absolutely love about you, is because, you know, you've had this very non-traditional route in the legal pathway, but in addition to that, you know, you've really focused on and balanced your life wants and needs with being a mom, and then being a mom of children with special needs. And from that, you've taken that experience and have been able to use it as an opportunity. And you got involved in the March of Dimes. Will you tell me about that?
Yeah. So Truman was born in 2006. So then in 2007, when he was a tiny little thing, we walked for the first time in the March for Babies walk. I think it was called Walk America at that point. And we actually walked with the team of nurses that had cared for him. We didn't even have our own team that year. We just walked with them and raised money with them. And then the next year we decided to form our own team. Team Truman is what we call it. And just, it became a passion of mine because of the fact that it was such a horrible, horrible thing that happened in our lives. And it happened twice. And I needed to make sense of it. I needed to turn it into something positive. And the March of Dimes is where we went, because without research funded by the March of Dimes, my children would not have survived, particularly my older child. There was a life-saving medication that he was given that the March of Dimes had funded with research in the 1980s. And so I feel like we have a lifelong debt to repay to them. So I got involved, and it's been highly involved for years. In fact, that's what these are back here. I have a bunch of these trophies we have been one of the top 10 fundraising teams for more than a decade now.
Oh, excellent.
As a family, I think our current fundraising is somewhere around 125,000 as a family.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so we've been doing that. We've been the ambassador family. I'm on the board. I'm the chair of the walk this year. I tell the March of Dimes folks that whatever you tag me for, I'm going to do until I die.
Excellent. And then, so in addition to this great professional career, to your dedication to the March of Dimes, you have also been a chair of attorneys serving the community. You are on your church board of trustees. I know that you're an avid gardener. Like, one thing about Kara that I never understand is, when does she sleep? And oh my God, how long could it possibly be? So I'm always kidding with her going, oh my God, I need more sleep to be, that I can't accomplish everything that you do in one span of a lifetime. It's amazing. So how do you continue to have this great professional career, to be an outstanding leader in your community, to be a very balanced and nurturing there for your children, kids, in addition to your hobbies of like gardening and everything else, that cooking, baking, you love to do that, and make you pickle stuff. It's crazy. Like, how and where do you find the ability to get all of this done? And what kills me, Kara, is everything you do is top notch, never half-assed, like most of everything I do. Like, you're killing it, and you're making us all look bad.
Okay.
So what's the magic? What's the magic there?
Well, first of all, I would say there is some half-assed stuff in there. You just don't know it, right? You don't put that on Facebook. You don't put the half-assed stuff there. One of the things is not really magic. It's that I'm just like my dad. We have very unusual sleep patterns, and that we are both people. I thank God I inherited this, and one of my kids got it too. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I fall asleep into a very deep sleep. Like, I would not be functional if you tried to wake me up in the first hour. Like, when I had babies, my husband had to do those the beginning of the night, because I am a hard sleeper. So as a result, I get really high quality sleep for about 7 hours. That's what I sleep, about 7 hours. Sometimes only 6, but I don't toss and turn like a lot of people. And so I am very lucky. I'm just lucky from that perspective. So I get quality sleep because Mother Nature gave it to me, I guess. She figured, if you got to raise these kids, let's give you something else, something to make up for it. I have an excellent partner. My husband quit his career. He's a violinist by training. He still does that from a freelance perspective, and he's in a couple of regional orchestras when live music happens. But he put his career aside to let me have mine. So he is the primary parent. So that's part of it. I get to have the quality part of parenting. I don't have to necessarily have some of the tedium, which is part of the time consuming part. So there's that. I'm also a strict believer in a schedule. I do to-do lists, I have spreadsheets, I have schedules, and I live by them. I'm also a huge believer in the mantra of not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. So I don't overdo work. When a presentation or a project or whatever it may be is in a good place, I don't continue to tinker till it's 110% perfection. I work very, very hard, and I do very, very good work, but I'm a believer that good work is good work, and you don't have to continue to belabor good work after the fact. So that's part of it. And also one of the things that had to give, I loved the practice litigation. I really did love it. I loved that sort of intellectual stimulation. I loved the battle, but I knew I couldn't live the life I wanted to live with the needs that my kids had, and have the sort of adventures in life, the travel, the hobbies and things I wanted to have in that career. So for me, that's part of what I did, is I changed my career path and figured out a different way to use my knowledge and my skill sets.
And I think that's amazing and wonderful. So thank you so much, Kara, for joining me for this short little conversation. I really appreciate it. I miss you, and I miss us hanging out, and I really miss your jelly. She makes the best pepper jelly.
I've got some waiting for you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kara. And thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. DWLA.